Hi there, welcome to this video where I'm going to give you my first impressions of my new Nikon Z8. Well, I'm really excited about this video because today is new camera day. My new Nikon Z8 mirrorless camera has arrived, and so we're going to unbox it very shortly. Now, I have been using my Nikon Z6 II for quite a while because my D850 has been damaged and I haven't got around to having it repaired. I've been watching the Z8 for quite a while and I decided the time had come to upgrade my Z6 II, and I have traded it in and now it's arrived, so it's time to get using it. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to unbox the camera, give you my first impressions and tell you what I think, and I know I'm definitely going to enjoy my photography. So without further ado, let's get the camera out of the box. I'll give you my first impressions about how it feels in my hand. I'll also give you a few technical specifications. Now, this video is not going to be all about the technical specifications because I want to get out and use it and just give you an idea about how it operates. As you'll know, it's always really exciting when you get a camera for the first time, and so I've been looking forward to this ever since it was announced a long while ago. Now, in the top of the box, so there's a couple of manuals that look like they're in several different languages. Then we've got the big moment, the camera itself. I don't want to drop it on the floor, so it's in a bubble wrap pack. Let's move that out of the way. And then another package as well. And here is the Z8. Down there. When I hold it in my hand, it does feel very similar in size to the D850, but also very familiar in its button layout at first glance to the Z6 II that I've just moved from. I've got my D850 by the side of the Z8 just as a more direct comparison, and they do really seem very similar. Nikon do tend to keep the buttons in a familiar place so you can just pick up each camera, but obviously there's some differences. The most noticeable being that it's slightly compact because we haven't got the mirror mechanism with it being mirrorless. On the back of the camera, the screen is quite a bit bigger on the back of the Z8 compared with the D850, but the button layout on the back of the Z8 is much more familiar with the button layout on the Z6 II that I've just moved from. So if you're going from a DSLR like the 850 to a mirrorless camera, you will notice more of a difference. What I'll do now is I'll put a graphic up on the screen with the specs of the Z8, and I'll compare them to the specs of the D850 as well, because I've seen many reports online that claim that the Z8 is the first true replacement in mirrorless form to the D850. So at first glance, a lot of the features are very similar between the Z8 and the D850. However, when you start to explore them, they are quite different. So we'll start with the sensor. Both have a very similar pixel count, but the Z8 sensor uses much newer technology and it's got a stacked CMOS sensor. This chip means that the Z8 has a faster data readout, and combine that with the new X-Speed 7 processing engine, it contributes to the overall performance, particularly the nippy focusing and subject detection. The ISO range is pretty much identical. The Z8 uses a Nikon Z mount and the D850 uses a Nikon F mount, but the advantages of the Z mount is it's got a bigger aperture, which means it can let more light in. Thankfully, if you've got any of the F mount lenses, you can use the FTZ adapter to use your F mount lenses on the Z8. The two cameras have the same size tilting touchscreen on the back at 3.2 inches. Now, it does appear that the Z8 is bigger, but in reality they are the same size. But the advantages that the Z8 has over the D850 is it tilts in more directions. The D850 will just tilt upwards, but the Z8 will tilt to the side as well. So if you're shooting at low level in portrait orientation, then the screen will flip out so you can see this much better. When it comes to continuous shooting and frames per second, the Z8 really takes the lead. The D850 has 7 frames per second, which was considered really good,
when it came out in 2017, but the Z8 can now do 20 frames per second at full resolution RAW files, 30 frames per second at full resolution JPEGs. Now if you reduce the file size down to JPEG and 11 megapixels, then you can shoot up to 120 frames per second. Another key difference from the D850 is the Z8 doesn't have a mechanical shutter, just an electronic shutter, and this enables shutter speeds of up to 1/320,000th of a second. When it comes to video, the D850 can shoot up to 4K, but I have always found that the autofocus is unreliable when shooting video with the D850. However, on the Z8 you can shoot up to 8K. The advantage is the Z8 will also shoot in Nikon's NRAW format, NRAW 12-bit, Apple ProRes RAW HQ 12-bit or Apple ProRes 422 HQ 10-bit. The Z8 is lighter than the D850, coming in at just under 100 grams lighter, and in most dimensions it's slightly smaller as well.
That's it for all the boring bits. What I'm going to do now is put the strap onto the camera. I'm then going to attach a lens and we're going to go out and we'll take some photographs. Now I'm sure if you're anything like me, you're not a big fan of reading manuals, but for the Z8 I have actually spent quite a bit of time looking at the manual online while I've been waiting for the camera to arrive. So I've got a fairly good idea of the differences between this and the Z6 II. Now what I've also done in the time from unboxing the camera to now is I've just done a few tweaks in the menus to set the camera up how I normally like it. The first thing that I've done is reverse the shutter dial because it just feels wrong to me when you look at the meter in the viewfinder that you move the dial to the left and the meter moves to the right. So I've changed that. Then I've also changed some of the focus modes as well and assigned some of the function buttons just so they're a little bit similar to how I had them on the Z6 II, so it feels familiar. I've got function 2 as a playback button, and then I've also assigned some focus modes to some of the other buttons that were suggested in one of the videos that I saw. So I'll say a little bit more about that when I get using the camera. Now after taking a first couple of photographs, it's really noticeable how quiet the camera is. There's no mechanical sounds at all. There is just a very small electronic sound that is made, and you can turn the volume of that down to nothing at all or have it very low that I've got it set at now at the moment. If I just put the camera next to the microphone, you'll just hear how quiet it is. Barely noticeable at all, and so that's going to be great when I'm out taking photographs of birds. I've left it on and not had it completely quiet because you just want a little bit of feedback that you've actually taken a photograph, but it is super quiet. So it's going to take me a while to get used to the focus modes on the Z8, but that is one of the main reasons that I bought the Z8 in the first place, because of the improved focusing capabilities. Now at the moment I'm in 3D tracking, and so when you point the camera at an object and at focus lock, the point stays on that object when you move the camera, and think that's really good. But I've also set the function 1 button on the front of the camera to activate the pinpoint focusing mode in case I want to really very accurately choose my focusing point. And then on the joystick on the back of the camera, if I push that, then I've set that to a wide angle focusing, because I've seen a video that suggests that if you're trying to take birds in flight, the camera locks on better if it's got a wide angle, and then you can switch very quickly by releasing that button back into the 3D tracking or use the pinpoint focusing on the front of the camera. Now this might change as I get used to it, but that's how it's set up just at the moment. I've changed lenses because I'm going to go into the bird hide, and I've also set the focus mode to animal. There are several modes that you can choose. There's a portrait mode for people, there's aeroplanes, and there's vehicles as well. So when you choose those modes, the camera should lock onto things that it recognizes. One great feature that the Z8 has is a sensor shield. Now the Z6 II didn't have this, so when you turn the camera off, a shield comes down over the sensor, so when you change the lenses, it saves getting dust all over the sensor. But strangely, this was set by default to being off, so the shutter didn't come down over the sensor, so I've had to turn that on. I've spent about 45 minutes taking photographs of birds in the hide, and I'm really pleased so far with the autofocus. It's great at locking onto the birds and finding their eye, and their focus point sticks with it wherever they go. It's really good. It's going to transform the photographs that I take, I'm sure. So what you can do, instead of concentrating on keeping the focus point on the bird's eye, you can really think about the composition and getting the photograph of the bird when it's in its best pose. It just really frees you up to think about making a better picture as well, because you're not concentrating on the focus, because you know that the camera is doing that for you. So that's been great. One of the things I have also done is I've stopped using the 3D tracking as the standard form of focus, and I find keeping a slightly wider focus area gets all of the bird in that area, but then because the camera is locking onto the bird's eye, it's not a problem anyway. So it really is a very good mode to use. Now, I might change my mind again as I do a little bit more experimenting, but that's the one I'm going to stick with just at the moment. Over the next few months, you'll see me take the Z8 out into the field and do a lot more photography with it. And also, as I get used to it more, I will tell you more about how I've set it up. But this is the first outing that I've had with it. I know I'm going to have to spend some time in the menus, really just fine-tuning it and setting it up how I really like it. But I'll inform you of that and anything else that I find out about the Z8 in the coming months. Now, I have got a really exciting thing to announce. I had a meeting the other day with a warden from the RSPB, which is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, and I'm going to do a collaboration with them in about a month's time. Now, we also discussed the possibility of doing some photo workshops in collaboration with me and the RSPB. So as soon as we get some of those details finalized, I'll let you know on the channel, and so you might be interested in coming and meeting me, seeing how the RSPB works and doing a photo workshop. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed that video, and my first impressions of the Z8 are really good. I think it's going to transform what I can do and just really elevate the quality of the photographs that I can take. So watch out for coming videos in the months to come. If you have enjoyed this video or have any questions at all, do let me know down below in the comments, or you can nip over to my Instagram or Vero account, leave me your comments there, and also see lots of my photographs. Now, if you like what I do on the channel and want to help support me to make future content like this, then you can leave via the gift shop. That's at Teespring. There I've got a range of merchandise on offer, so head off over there, check what I've got, because a purchase really does help me out and it's very much appreciated. But you don't have to spend any money at all to support the channel. You can do that simply by clicking like, subscribe and the bell notifications. It really helps me out and it makes sure that you don't miss out on any future content. Watch out for next week's video. That goes live on Sunday. In the meantime, go and check out this video just up here. But all that's left now is to say, stay safe and I'll see you soon.